SNL Saturday Night Live actually in America. Not this new UK version, but the American version on Weekend Update has gone for her again. I mean, they actually call her a terrorist. Watch this.
King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American terrorist. President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
This is what happens when you bring the first black woman into the royal family. She looked at Harry and she's like, you need to get a job.
Saturday Night Live once again slams Meghan Markle as she is spiraling after burning all of the bridges she's ever known.
I'm black and I'm British. Basically, I'm what the royal family was worried the baby would look like.
What went down on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026, inside Studio 8H in New York City, wasn't just another comedy segment. It hit like a shockwave that nobody in the room fully expected at first glance. Just 3 days before the clip exploded online, Colin Jost locks eyes with the camera on one of the most watched comedy stages in America, and without any build-up or hesitation, he delivers a line that instantly flips the energy in the studio. On Saturday Night Live's Weekend Update, the kind of space where jokes are usually carefully measured but still bold, he reportedly refers to Meghan Markle in a way that instantly triggers controversy on a massive scale. The phrasing is blunt, direct, and completely unfiltered for primetime television. Behind him, a screen flashes an image of Harry and Meghan, and instead of confusion or silence, the audience erupts in loud laughter, like they were waiting for that exact moment. There was no pause in the studio, no awkward silence hanging in the air, no visible discomfort from the crowd. Instead, it felt like the reaction came instantly, almost instinctively, like the room had been primed for it.
King Charles visited the U.S. to mark the 250th anniversary of American independence from Britain and to seek the release of a British hostage being held by an American terrorist.
That got some big laughs. They're calling her a terrorist. Literally branding her a terrorist on Saturday Night Live, getting torn apart over this visit. Because again, the king can't go see them or the kids without it becoming a whole to-do because she doesn't care about people's families. She cares only about herself.
Asked the CEO of Disney to hook his wife up with voiceovers. And I mean, don't get me wrong. On the one hand, husband goals. On the other hand, you gotta admit the monarchy has fallen off, right? No, because back in the day, it used to be like, if you marry my daughter, I'll give you Burgundy. And now it's like, my wife actually does a pretty good Timon. You should hear her. Come on, baby, do the thing. Hakuna Matata, do the thing.
Jost barely holds it together, visibly fighting a grin before quickly moving on to the next segment, like nothing out of the ordinary just happened. But that moment was already out of control. Within just 36 hours, that short 9-second clip spreads like wildfire across the internet. It doesn't stay contained in comedy circles or late-night fan pages. It jumps straight into mainstream media feeds. Page 6, Sky News Australia, GB News, and the Daily Mail all pick it up almost immediately, pushing it into global visibility. Royal commentary, accounts on X amplify it even further, turning it into non-stop discussion across millions of timelines. And here's where things get even more intense. According to industry context around how Saturday Night Live operates, Weekend Update isn't random improvisation. It's heavily scripted, reviewed, and legally checked before it ever goes live.
Audiences are typically more forgiving of public figures who can laugh at themselves, but when you project this level of seriousness while contributing relatively little culturally, it creates some disconnect. That's why jokes like that one, they land until they're willing to be in on the joke instead of above it with their titles. That perception isn't going to change.
President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK that will reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these two.
That means multiple writers and even network legal teams are involved in approving every line before it reaches air. So, when a moment like this makes it through, it raises serious questions about intent, tone, and awareness at every level of production. That's why the reaction online isn't just about the joke itself. It's about what it represents. People start asking how a mainstream American comedy institution went from cautiously referencing Meghan and Harry in earlier years to allegedly pushing jokes that frame them in a far more hostile or dismissive light. The shift feels gradual but noticeable, like a slow change in tone that built up over time rather than happening overnight. And if you zoom out, the pattern becomes the real story here. Not just one clip, not just one night, but years of similar moments stacking up across broadcasts. It starts to look less like isolated comedy and more like a long-running narrative evolving in public view, joke by joke, segment by segment, until it reaches a point where even network television feels comfortable pushing the edge further than before. Now rewind just 1 year earlier, May 10th, 2025. Same studio, same Weekend Update desk, same Colin Jost delivering lines in front of a live audience that's ready for satire.
Donald Trump has had enough of them. He's privately savaged Prince Harry during King Charles's visit to America. Trump remarked to a British visitor when the conversation turned to Harry, "Can you take him back?" Everyone is fed up with the grifters. I mean, Trump has clearly had enough of the woe is me, ginger and whinger.
You know, I mean, she used to be on
Was
Deal or
he
No
infiltrated?
Deal. Look, she was on Deal or No Deal.
Yeah, that's right. And then the wife convinces you to leave the royal family. Like, I'm out. I don't need you guys. Which is crazy, because don't you just get free
But
money?
this time, the energy feels different from the start. A major political headline involving a UK-US trade announcement had just broken, and naturally, it becomes material for comedy. But instead of a quick throwaway joke, Jost leans into it harder than expected. He looks down at his cue card, pauses just long enough for the tension to build, and then delivers a line that immediately shifts the mood in the studio. The crowd reacts loudly, some laughing, some caught off guard, while he briefly cracks a smile before catching himself and continuing on. That clip doesn't just stay in the studio either. It spreads fast. Within hours, it circulates online and becomes part of a wider discussion about how comedy is increasingly intersecting with real-world public figures in sharper, more pointed ways. The framing of the joke, especially in how it touches on international dynamics and public perception, becomes the center of attention. And what makes it more layered is the timing. Around that same period, Harry was publicly speaking in interviews, while Meghan was promoting new projects tied to streaming platforms. The overlap between real-world appearances and televised satire creates a collision of narratives that audiences can't ignore. Even attempts to push back online.
All right, look who it is. It's one of my ex-girlfriends. Excellent, Miss Tinsley Granger-Gash.
Yeah.
Hi, Tins. You want to say something to my future child?
Oh, hello, little baby. Hello, little tiny baby.
All right, little Florence
little
Tins,
baby.
right?
Your dad broke up with me on WhatsApp.
Okay, so here we go. Come on, your grandpa, Prince Charles, right? Say hello, Dad.
Hello.
All right, do you want to say anything to your future grandchild?
Yes. Hello.
All right, we're going to donate. Someone's trapped under the gift. Something. Oh my God, Grandma! Grandma, you're on the floor. What's going on?
What happened? Am I king?
No, Dad, she's fine.
Oh, well, good.
Careful, Gran, please. You want to say hello to your future grandchild?
Oh, hello. Welcome to the family. I already love you with all my heart.
Oh, Gran.
Even though you're half American, which means you're half traitor.
All right, thank you, Gran. And here she is, your aunt, Kate Middleton. All right, the papers keep saying she's feuding with your mum, but that's not true.
No,
right?
we're not feuding. Why? Why would we? Because I follow all the strict rules and she doesn't? And people love her for it? Oh, I love that.
All
Excuse
right.
me.
Don't gain much traction this time. Earlier years saw coordinated fan reactions, trending campaigns, and heavy online defense. But by 2025, that energy feels noticeably weaker. The conversation moves faster, the attention span shorter, and the viral clip keeps circulating regardless of backlash attempts. But this isn't just about 1 year either. It stretches back much further. Go all the way to April 13th, 2019, and the tone is already being shaped in a very different way. Saturday Night Live, hosted that night by Emma Stone, airs a sketch centered around the royal family and a fictionalized take on a royal baby scenario. Mikey Day plays Harry, and Kate McKinnon steps in as the Queen with her signature exaggerated royal demeanor, while Cecily Strong portrays Kate Middleton in a tightly controlled, emotionally restrained performance. The humor is sharp, exaggerated, and designed for maximum audience reaction. One of the most talked about moments in that sketch comes when Meghan's pregnancy is directly referenced in a satirical exchange involving royal family dynamics. The studio reacts immediately, laughter filling the room while NBC lets the segment air without hesitation during primetime broadcasting. This is still 2019, years before major public interviews, years before memoir releases, and long before the most widely discussed royal revelations hit mainstream media cycles. Yet the writing already frames the relationship as fragile, high pressure, and constantly under scrutiny. What stands out most is how early these narrative tones appear. The sketches don't wait for real-world developments. They seem to predict tension before it fully plays out publicly. Whether that's coincidence, cultural observation, or sharp writing instincts depends on how you interpret it. But the pattern becomes hard to ignore, and through all of it, one detail keeps coming back into focus. None of these moments get reversed, edited out, or walked back after airing. Once they're broadcast, they exist fully in the public space, shared, clipped, replayed, and debated endlessly online without any real correction or rollback from the network. Even as discussions intensify across social media and commentary platforms, the content remains untouched, continuing to circulate in the same form it originally aired in, adding layer after layer to an already complex public narrative that keeps evolving with every new broadcast. The moment that half-traitor line hit the air, it didn't just fade out like a normal comedy jab. It stuck, clung, and mutated into something way bigger than a single sketch ever should have become. What started as a sharp joke inside a scripted broadcast quickly turned into a cultural reference point that people still drag out whenever Meghan Markle's name enters any heated discussion. That line, delivered in the voice and expression style of Kate McKinnon during a royal parody sketch, became more than just scripted humor. It evolved into shorthand online, a repeated phrase that resurfaces every time public opinion shifts or criticism spikes. It didn't matter if the situation had anything to do with the original context or not. The internet just kept recycling it, like fuel for commentary wars. What makes it even more striking is how a fictional portrayal inside a sketch managed to outlive real-world political moments, including entire leadership changes in the UK. People online started using that moment as a reference point long after the original broadcast aired, turning a comedy bit into a long-running meme that refuses to disappear, no matter how much time passes. And the wild part, that line was delivered inside a satirical royal setting on NBC's Saturday Night Live, a show already known for pushing boundaries. But this particular moment somehow crossed into a different category of viral cultural memory. It became one of those rare comedy fragments that escapes the show entirely and starts living its own independent life online. Think about the weight of that for a second. Fictional dialogue performed in a scripted sketch, transforming into a recurring label used in real-world commentary threads across multiple platforms. That's not just comedy anymore. That's digital echo behavior at full speed. And it doesn't slow down easily once it starts rolling. But hold that thought, because things escalate even further when you shift focus to another member of the royal family who became a repeated target of late-night satire at the same time. Jump forward to January 22nd, 2022, and the spotlight shifts toward Prince Andrew following major public controversy tied to legal settlements and stripped royal duties. Inside the same Weekend Update format on Saturday Night Live, Colin Jost delivers a sequence of jokes that hit the audience with a mix of shock and laughter. The setup is quick, almost casual, but the punchlines land with surgical precision. One of the jokes framed Prince Andrew in a way that instantly spread online, combining wordplay with his public reputation at the time. Another line referenced the broader fallout around his public image in a dry, deadpan delivery style that didn't even pause for reaction. It just moved forward like a machine firing off lines. The audience reaction inside the studio was immediate, laughter breaking out even before the segment fully continued. Jost barely changed expression, keeping that classic Weekend Update restraint while letting the writing do all the heavy lifting. It was one of those moments where the joke lands so fast that the audience reacts before they even fully process what was said. Then, fast forward again to November 1st, 2025, and the tone shifts even darker in terms of royal satire energy. This time, the focus lands again on Prince Andrew after major developments involving his remaining royal status. The desk is taken over by Michael Chi, and the writing takes a noticeably sharper turn. The segment referenced the ongoing public scrutiny surrounding Andrew's situation, and one particular joke delivered during that broadcast became headline material across entertainment media. Outlets like Variety didn't frame it as subtle or playful. They described it in blunt terms, highlighting just how far the satire had pushed into uncomfortable territory for some viewers. Inside the studio, the reaction was split between laughter and audible shock. The kind of silence breaker jokes that hit so fast, people react instinctively before thinking it through. By the next morning, clips were circulating everywhere, amplified by social media accounts and entertainment news pages dissecting every second of the segment. Now, to be clear on context here, discussions around public figures like Andrew often come bundled with legal and public scrutiny narratives, and nothing shown in these sketches represents verified legal outcomes or judicial conclusions. Even so, the way Saturday Night Live approaches these topics has always walked that sharp edge between satire and controversy. What matters in this breakdown is not legal framing, but cultural positioning, how the show chooses to present certain public figures in a comedic lens, and how those portrayals ripple outward into global conversations. Then everything ties back together on May 2nd, 2026, in the same Weekend Update universe, where the Meghan-focused jokes and royal commentary collide into one final sequence. After earlier punchlines referencing both Meghan and Harry, Colin Jost delivers a final segment that shifts the energy again. This time, he references a moment involving King Charles III and a symbolic exchange involving diplomatic gestures tied to international optics. But the joke doesn't stay there. It pivots into a modern pop culture framing involving a contact name joke tied to Donald Trump and Prince Andrew. On screen, a visual mock-up appears and the studio reacts instantly. Laughter mixed with audible shock as the idea lands in real time. It's one of those rapid-fire Weekend Update closers that escalates quickly, leaving the audience reacting before the next cut even arrives. Entertainment outlets like HuffPost, Rolling Stone, and Variety all picked it up within a day, breaking down how the segment stacked multiple royal references into a single punchline chain. The framing turned the entire royal dynamic into a layered comedic structure where each figure gets assigned a symbolic role inside the satire. Meghan becomes positioned in narrative commentary as the ongoing media focal point. Andrew becomes the recurring scandal reference. Charles becomes the central connector, moving between institutional pressure points. It's satire, but it's structured satire that keeps repeating similar roles across multiple years of sketches. Then, the AI narrative pulls back even further to December 16, 2023, when the Wales family Christmas card controversy explodes online after editing concerns trigger global discussion. The image tied to Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, becomes the centre of massive online speculation and media coverage. Inside Saturday Night Live, the situation gets turned into another satirical segment where Joss delivers a punchline that immediately triggers studio laughter. The visual gag used in the sketch pushes the moment into exaggerated comedy territory, layering internet reaction culture directly into the performance. The joke spreads fast online, clipped and reposted across platforms within hours. It becomes another example of how the show takes real-world media moments and compresses them into rapid-fire satire that travels even faster than the news cycle itself. But the deeper pattern is what stands out most across all these years. From 2018 onward, the tone shifts slowly but consistently, starting with light royal humor and gradually building into sharper, more pointed portrayals that reflect changing public perception over time. Back in May 19, 2018, just after the royal wedding of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the global media atmosphere was completely different. The world was watching a fairy tale narrative unfold at Windsor with orchestral music, grand visuals, and overwhelming public attention. At that point, satire still leaned more toward admiration, mixed with light humor, focusing on tradition, culture clash, and public fascination rather than controversy-heavy framing. But as years passed, the tone inside the writer's room at Saturday Night Live shifted along with global headlines, slowly layering in more direct commentary, sharper punchlines, and recurring character roles that kept evolving with each season. And that's where this entire timeline continues to build momentum without ever really slowing down or resetting the narrative tone that has now stretched across multiple years of televised satire, public reaction, and endlessly recycled internet commentary. Everything starts to feel almost unreal when you look back at how casually it all began. Like nobody in that moment had any idea they were watching the first spark of something that would snowball into years of non-stop satire and public obsession. What looks like a simple comedy segment at first slowly turns into a full timeline of repeated references, recycled jokes, and escalating punchlines that stack on top of each other across different years and different political climates. On the night described as a modern fairy tale moment involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the global focus is completely locked in on the royal wedding broadcast. Cameras flash, orchestras play, and every detail is being watched like history, unfolding in real time across millions of screens worldwide. But then, inside the world of Saturday Night Live, the tone immediately shifts once the Weekend Update segment begins. That's where Michael Chi steps forward, looking down at his cue card with that calm, almost emotionless delivery style that makes the punchlines hit even harder when they land. What follows in this narrative is described as the first Meghan-related punchline delivered in that format, and the reaction inside the studio is instant and loud. The audience doesn't hesitate. They erupt immediately, reacting before the full weight of the joke even settles in. It becomes one of those moments where timing and delivery collide so perfectly that the response almost feels automatic, and the framing of it is what makes it stick in this storyline. It's happening during a globally celebrated wedding moment, a day built around unity, tradition, and public celebration. Yet inside the comedy space, the same moment is flipped into satire broadcast directly to millions of viewers, creating a sharp contrast between celebration and commentary. From there, the timeline jumps forward to April 10th, 2021, in a completely different global mood. At that point, the aftermath of the Oprah interview involving Meghan and Harry has already shaken international media discussions. Every outlet is dissecting quotes, reactions, and interpretations, and public attention is extremely fragmented and intense. Inside Saturday Night Live that night, Daniel Kaluuya steps onto the stage as host. The energy in the room is already high, fueled by his rising global profile and recent award recognition. He delivers a self-referential line that immediately connects identity, perception, and audience expectation in a way that triggers a massive reaction. The studio rises, laughter spreads instantly, And the moment becomes one of those viral clips that doesn't stay inside television anymore. It escapes into the internet almost immediately. News outlets like Newsweek and USA Today pick it up, and reaction channels across platforms replay it endlessly, breaking down every second of the audience response. What started as a single monologue moment becomes part of a much larger conversation about how comedy interacts with emotional interviews and real-world narratives. Then, the timeline shifts again to February 4th, 2023, right after the release of Spare. At this point, global media is still fully processing revelations, commentary, and ongoing reactions to the memoir's content. Inside Saturday Night Live, a parody segment emerges that blends music, satire, and exaggerated cultural commentary. The sketch, described here as a British-style rap parody, features cast members including James Austin Johnson and Devon Walker, all performing in a high-energy, comedic format. The studio reaction is immediate and intense. The audience laughs, reacts loudly, and engages with the performance as it escalates in rhythm and delivery. One specific lyric moment becomes widely clipped and shared across social platforms, turning into a recurring reference point in online discussions. That phrase, referred to in this narrative as "Not Today, Satan," doesn't just fade after airing, it spreads. It gets reposted, quoted, and reused in comment sections whenever discussions about Meghan surface online. Over time, it becomes a kind of shorthand inside certain online spaces, a repeated cultural reference that outlives the original broadcast. From there, the narrative builds a full timeline of recurring satire moments. 2018 introduces early royal wedding humor. 2019 expands into sharper character framing. 2020 and 2021 push emotional and media-based reinterpretations. And 2023 fully enters viral clip culture, where moments are instantly global within hours. Each year adds another layer to the pattern, reinforcing how repetition shapes perception over time. What begins as isolated jokes becomes a connected chain of references that audiences start recognizing instinctively across different episodes and years. Then everything escalates further when the British version enters the picture on March 21st, 2026, through what is described here as Saturday Night Live UK. This version introduces an entirely different comedic tone shaped by British satire traditions. The opening Weekend Update style segment is described as extremely bold, immediately diving into controversial subject matter with dry delivery and sharp timing. The tone is more direct, more stripped down, and heavily influenced by UK-style understatement, layered with dark humour. Hosted in this narrative by Tina Fey, the debut episode establishes a completely different comedic identity compared to its American counterpart. The jokes move quickly, the tone is sharper, and the references are more locally grounded while still tied to global figures. Early sketches in this British version reportedly focus heavily on Prince Andrew, framing him through exaggerated satire connected to ongoing public controversy narratives. At the same time, Meghan and Harry also continue appearing as recurring reference points across multiple segments. The audience response described here is strong, with clips spreading rapidly across social platforms and discussions forming immediately after broadcast. The British version becomes its own viral engine, separate from the American show, but connected through shared subject matter. What stands out most in this expansion is how both versions of the show, American and British, begin operating in parallel, reinforcing similar narratives through different cultural lenses. One uses American late-night satire structure, the other uses British dry humour, but both circle the same public figures repeatedly. And then everything loops back to May 2nd, 2026, where both versions of satire now exist at the same time, feeding into a shared global conversation. On the American side, Saturday Night Live continues its Weekend Update segments, stacking jokes that reference multiple public figures in rapid succession. On the British side, satire continues evolving through its own format, creating a parallel commentary stream that reflects different humour traditions but similar narrative focus. Together, they form a two-track media environment where public figures are interpreted through multiple comedic systems at once. Inside this framing, Meghan and Harry become recurring anchors of satire across both shows, appearing in different contexts but consistently tied to evolving jokes and references. Other royal figures rotate through supporting roles, reinforcing the interconnected nature of the narrative. At the same time, major media outlets like Sky News Australia, Rolling Stone, HuffPost, and Variety continue clipping, analysing, and redistributing segments almost instantly after broadcast. That rapid circulation cycle becomes part of the ecosystem that keeps each moment alive, far beyond its original airing. From a storytelling perspective, what's most striking is the continuity across nearly a decade of content. From 2018 through 2026, the tone gradually shifts, builds and evolves, layering one moment on top of another until a full timeline of satire is formed. Each segment feeds into the next, each joke becomes part of a larger archive, and each reaction fuels the next cycle of discussion. Over time, repetition becomes the core structure, holding the narrative together, shaping how audiences interpret every new appearance. And through all of it, the central idea remains the same: comedy, media reaction, and public perception all blending together into a constantly evolving global conversation that never fully resets, only expands. Everything eventually circles back into that opening idea of transformation over time, where repeated exposure turns isolated jokes into long-term cultural reference points that continue echoing across platforms, years, and audiences. And right at the end of this long-running arc of commentary, where everything converges into one continuous media loop stretching across 2 continents and multiple years of satire, the final prompt hits directly at audience engagement, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.